Terima kasih, Mbak. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Good morning, everyone, and best wishes to all of us. Distinguished Your Excellencies, Head of Human Resources Development Center of Land Transportation, Bapak Dr. Bambang Siswoyo, STMT, Secretary of Human Resource Development of Transportation, Bapak Dr. Captain Wisnu, STMT, Direktur Polytechnic of Land Transport, Bapak Avi Mukti Amin, SSITMT, Mr. Pradip Pan, PhD, Planning Program Administrator at Hawaii Department of Transportation, and all distinguished participants. Good morning. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is truly my pleasure to welcome all of you today to the public lecture on energy security and sustainability in transportation, lessons from Hawaii strategy. Transportation play a crucial role in driving economic growth and connectivity. However, transportation, one of the largest consumers of the energy, it is also present significant challenges to achieving energy security and sustainability, especially for archipelagic regions such as Indonesia and Hawaii, which share many similar geographical and logistical conditions. Today's event is a follow-up to the Young Southeast Asian Leaders Initiative, Professional Fellows Program Reciprocal Exchange Project called Aloha, Adaptive Learning Transportation from Hawaii. The project was initiated by Ms. Estiara Elizar as a transport planner at the Transport Policy Agency, Ministry of Transportation Indonesia. Following her fellowship with the Hawaii Department of Transportation. We are also pleased to welcome Mr. Pradip Pan, PhD, Planning Program Administrator from Hawaii Department of Transportation, who will share his valuable insight with us today. And Mr. Pan, I understand that you visited Indonesia last month. We hope you had an enjoyable and memorable experience during your visit in Indonesia. Building of this spirit of collaboration, the government of Indonesia, through the National Medium-Term Development Plan 2025-2029, has placed energy security and sustainability as a key national priorities. Learning from Hawaii experience will provide valuable perspectives as Indonesia advances its own initiative toward cleaner, more resilient, and efficient transportation system. To all of the cadets joining today, this lecture presents a special opportunity to learn directly from global experience, best practices. The challenges of energy security and sustainability are not only technical, but also about strong leadership, creativity, and cross-sectoral collaboration. To all of you cadets, you are the future of transport professionals that will shape Indonesia transport transformation, designing smarter system, improving energy efficiency, and ensuring mobility that serve both our people and the global community. I would like to express my sincere appreciation to Hawaii Department of Transportation and Polytechnic of Land Transport for their strong collaboration and support in making this program possible. I wish all the participants an insightful and inspiring session, and may today's discussion strengthen our shared commitment to sustainable transport future for both Indonesia and Hawaii. Please allow me to close with the inspiring reminder: the future is not something we enter. The future is something we create. They are not switch. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, MC. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, peace and blessing to us all. The Honorable one of Planning Program Administrator, Hawaii Department of Transport, Mr. Pradipan, PSD. Two Secretaries of Agency, Dr. Captain Wisnu Handoko, MSc. Three Secretaries of Transport Policy Agency, Mr. Rizal, STME. Four Director of Indonesia Land Transport Polytechnic, STTD, Mr. Afi Mukti Amin, SST, MG. And all member of academic community and to all student I follow and take pride. First and foremost, let us thank the Almighty God for His grace and blessings, which have brought us together for today's Studium Generale on the theme energy security and sustainable in transportation, lesson from Hawaii strategy. This topic is highly relevant today as the world is going through a crucial phase in energy transition and technological change while working to build transportation system that are safe, resilient, and environmentally sustainable. Transportation plays a vital role in driving economic growth, strengthening regional connectivity, and improving people welfare. However, it is also one of the larger energy consuming sector and significant contributor to greenhouse gas emission. This situation required is not only to pursue efficiency and speed, but also the ensure energy security and environmental sustainability. This challenge become even more complex in regions like Indonesia and Hawaii, which share similar geographic features. They are separated by vast ocean, even on multimodal transport system, and really heavily and important energy supplier. Hawaii experience provide follow insight into how security and sustainable can coexist within a cohesive transportation strategy through the adaptation of renewable energy-based charging system, integration of land use planning, and the development of intelligent transportation system. Hawaii saw that a low carbon, safe, and efficient transport network can be achieved through coordinated policy, innovation, and community participation. For Indonesia, this lesson are especially important. As a country with diverse geography and infrastructure challenge, we need to pursue a similar and synergy by connecting clean energy development, efficient system, and smart mobility technology to create a future-ready transportation system that support national resiliency and environmental care. This public gateway also aim to strengthen the link between academic knowledge and real-world practice. We hope it will have alike an integrated transportation-related course within our curriculum so that our student can connect theoretical concept with practical application, understand how technology and sustainable interest intersect, and develop innovative ideas to move Indonesia land transportation toward a greener and smarter future. In the spirit, I pleasant to open today's Studium Generale. Mind this event inspired us all the continue innovating and contributing to the development of the transportation system that is secure, sustainable, and competitive global. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Peace be upon you. Om Santi 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 Om, and best regret. Thank you very much.
Good morning. Good morning, and thank you. Can you hear me clear?
Yes, it's clear, loud and clear.
Thank you. Good morning, and thank you, Secretary Rijal, distinguished colleagues and participants at the STTD. I'm honored to be here. Like Secretary Rizal said, and I was there in Indonesia just last month. And thank you for all your welcome there. Especially thank you for Istiria, who, who is my colleague, SLE colleague in Indonesia. She arranged all this program and then for her collaboration with her ministry as well as today's presentation. Let me share can I share my slides? I think that would be easier. Okay, so today I'm going to present about our energy security and waste reduction plan. It is essentially a greenhouse gas reduction plan. We just named that because of some technical reason. The presentation content that I have for today, I'll talk about Hawaii's transportation system, um, some background about why we came up with this plan, um, and the details about what are the emission reduction strategies that we have in this plan, and just a concluding remark in terms of how we are proceeding in future. Like all of you probably know, Hawaii is the most remote place on Earth. It is about 6,800 miles, about 11,000 kilometers from Jakarta, Indonesia. Even our closest city in California is about 2,500 miles, about 4,000 kilometers from us. So we are really far out here. And that has a real implication in terms of transportation. So most of the transportation in and out of our state is essentially through jets, through aeroplanes. And you'll understand, that also reflects on our emission profile. So a lot of our emission is also from our aviation sector. Again, we'll go into that details a little bit later, but essentially our transportation system, we are remotely located. So our main transportation to and from our state is through our aviation. We are the 50th state in the United States. Our land mass is about 11,000 square miles. Our population is about 1.4 million. We're actually ranked 40th in terms of population within in the 50 states in the United States. Of course, we have got a unique culture, stunning beaches, volcanic landscape, and tropical climate. Some of those are similar to some of your islands in Indonesia. And one of our a major industry is the visitor industry. Actually, in fact, that is our number one economy in our state. Going to our transportation system, starting with our airport and aviation, we have got 15 airports, and out of that, 11 are commercial airports. Commercial service means there is a commercial operation going on. And last year, we had about 38.5 million passenger they went through this airport system out of those 11 commercial service airport. Not only passengers, but also freight and mail come through the system. So there were 846,000 tons, nearly 8.8 million ton of freight and mail. And there are also more than 1 million aircraft landings and takeoff in 2024. This reflects our primary transportation mode to and from our state, not just for interstate travel, but also interstate, between the islands. The travel is predominantly through aviation. Our harbor network, we have got 9 commercial harbors on 6 islands. 85% of all goods that are imported, that are consumed in Hawaii, goes through the harbor system and then are imported, and 91% of those goods are from harbor system. So harbor is really critical to our supplies. Last year, we had 1.75 million 20 equivalent unit, that is a standard container coming in with about 19 million tons of cargo in 2024. So that's essentially everything coming into Hawaii is for consumption for food, groceries, construction material, petroleum, everything coming through our harbor system. And there is also a visitor component because there are cruise ships that port into our harbors. About 972,000 cruise passengers also visited us in 2024. Going to the state highway system, we have got 9,800 lane miles of roads. There is about 10.43 billion miles of vehicle travel every year. That is actually in 2023. It will be similar number in 2024. Although our state system account for only 25% of the total lane miles, we actually contribute to 60% of vehicle miles. So you see the importance of our state system because they are mostly arterial road, freeways, and major highways. Apart from the highway system itself, we also maintain 177 miles of bikeways and 168 miles of sidewalk in the statewide system. There are more bikeways and sidewalk that is actually a footpath. I think that's what probably you call there in Indonesia. On the county system, we are talking, there are lower number of bikeway and sidewalk in the state system because, they are mostly a right restricted closed system, and you won't have that many sidewalk or state or a bikeway on arterial system. The transit system are managed by the counties. So we've got a 4 county, and 4 county have their own transit system. And they have, different type of vehicles in service. Mostly our transit system is by bus. And we recently have a rapid transit system, a Honolulu Rail project. Initially, it was projected to cost $5.2 billion in 2011. But now the final cost seems to be about $10 billion. And we were comparing, when I was in Indonesia, I took the WUS train. We had a presentation. We discussed about the cost issue. I think, this, 10 billion final cost is even expensive than the WUS train, the high-speed rail that you have there. The original system was 20 mile to a 20 station system with a per day passenger ridership predicted to about 120,000. But because of the cost issue, and with the $10 billion that is available, the final finished system would only have 18.75 miles and 19 stations. The segment 1 is already in operation. The segment 1 is starting from the from west side of the island. This is the main island of the state of Hawaii. It is called Oahu. It is already operational. It was already operational last year up to Aloha Studium, up to this point. And then just recently, October 16th, the second section up to the blue point over here that has been operational. The ridership right now is about 15,000 because earlier it was about 4,000 up to Aloha Studium in the first phase. With the second phase opening, it is about 15,000. The final phase, when it is completed, the expected ridership is about 120,000. So essentially, these are the kind of our transportation system at a higher level. This is what we have. So in terms of emission reduction, it is not like we were not doing anything previous to our plan that we have produced now. We're actually working on reducing our emission for several years now. More than 15 years. There have been a lot of electrification going on. There has been a rapid rise of increase in electric vehicle. Actually, Hawaii is second to California in terms of electric vehicle adoption. So last year, I think we had, this year we actually had 16% increase from the last year. So there is actually a very rapid EV adoption in our state. We also have the charging infrastructure established. Even Tesla has its supercharger. There are other commercial vendors, and even with the state, we are providing some of the state-sponsored charging station throughout the state. Our airport system, our harbor system, and even in our highways, offices, and ports and airports, rapid electrification is also going on for the last 10 years. A lot of our roofs are covered with the PV system. Our airport are actually going through the carbon accreditation program. Our Honolulu airport is on the stage 1 level, so they are actually achieving a higher level of carbon accreditation, meaning they are reducing the emission as far as possible in terms of their operation in the airport itself. But even with all those activities that was going on for a while, still, in terms of the emission, the transportation system in Hawaii was emitting, or actually is emitting, half of the total emission from the state. If you look at that, and just going back to our major mode of transportation, aviation, you'll see that 48% of our transportation emission is through aviation. That our major transportation system to and within our island is aviation, and that is contributing to our major greenhouse gas emission. It is really different than other states and probably other countries in the world because not all countries have the same profile in terms of transportation like ours. We basically depend on air transportation for our mobility. So there was a lawsuit. Actually, 13 Hawaiian youth sued the department, the state, and the governor because they felt that we were not doing enough for the climate and for the state and what they call as a public trust resources. The responsibility of this generation to be able to maintain the environment and to protect that for the future generation. That is what the public trust doctrine actually says. And they sued us saying that we were not doing enough So there was a discussion between the plaintiff and we, the defendant, we were being sued in this lawsuit. And then we realized that essentially what we were doing and what they were asking was the same thing. So instead of arguing, the department and the governor and the state actually did a settlement and said that we are just going to formalize our commitment on the carbon emission, the reduction in the emission, and then we set the goal. That's what we have been doing for more than a decade now, and we're just going to formalize that with you. And then instead of arguing, let's work together. So that was essentially what we were trying to do with our settlement last year. And then the settlement essentially acknowledges that it is not just the Department of Transportation. It is also the community, our policy makers, our legislators, the industry, and the community as a whole who need to work together to actually achieve this goal of carbon reduction and to meet the state goals. So that is basically an understanding that we had. So part of that understanding was to create a lead unit within the Department of Transportation which will focus on climate adaptation and mitigation work that has been already established. We also agreed to form a volunteer youth council, and we'll see that in the next slide, to ensure that the youth have a seat, and then they are also part of that discussion, not just for the carbon reduction and the greenhouse gas reduction goals, but for our transportation plan and policy as a whole. And then we also agreed to develop a long-term greenhouse gas and VMT impact methodology for actually quantifying for individual project and then to reduce that. And then we'll be publishing those report online as a part of our number of planning document that we report to our federal government as well as to our community. So that would be an ongoing process, and then we report our targets and then achievement. We also promised as a part of the settlement to expand and complete the Main State Pipe and transit network with a horizon of 5 years. And then there was also program related requirements like 1,000 trees per year and spending $40 million for EV charging infrastructure within 2030. So those are more of a program detail. You can actually see the settlement agreement if you scan the barcode. It is publicly available. This is the youth council that I was discussing earlier. I was part of that student, or we actually opened that online for a student to apply. Not just the student, it was for youth, and youth would probably be student, and you need to go to the school. You can't just not go to the school in the United States. So probably they are all student, and if you see the age range. We have students from 11 to 15 years. There were 5 students, 16 to 19 years, 9 students, and under 24, 60 students. So we had about 20 students altogether selected for the Youth Transportation Council. 11 were girls, 9 boys, and then they are going to rotate. We're going to have a new set of, half of those would be rotated out and half of them will remain for the next year. And then this is going to continue throughout. So with newer council member, the youth council action will keep on going forward. So if you want a detail of that, you can scan the barcode. You'll get to the website describing how it was set up. Their deliberation, their meeting minutes, and their activities are also on their website. So you can access those through the barcode on the screen. What are the plan requirements? We talked about creating a plan within a year. Essentially, it reflects the state's goal. So the state has a goal of reducing by 2030, 50% of the 2005 emission. So the state goal number one is to reduce carbon emission to 50% of what it was in 2005 by 2030, and to reach net negative emission by 2045. So net negative emission, that means we would be capturing more carbon than we emit by 2045. So this is a really hefty goal for us. And I think we are the first one in any state within the United States to have this 2045 goal as a law. So that is a major focus of our plan to achieve that reduction. So this is not just for transportation, it is for all sector of economy. It is for industry, it is for household electricity generation, it is for agriculture, it is for forestry, it is for all sector within the state of Hawaii. But that also reflects, our goal also reflects, and it goes down to our our sector, which transportation sector for which we are responsible. So there are all other legal requirements in the state law that requires us to manage the clean ground transportation and decarbonization goal, as well as to achieve clean fuel standard. So those are also a part of our greenhouse gas reduction plan. So there are other legal requirements. I don't really need to go into the details. They are much more, a part of a bigger picture that we have in terms of reducing the greenhouse gas emission. But essentially, we started the process in early July last year. We had a draft plan by the beginning of this year. We went out to our community, and also this was also discussed in our youth council, like we discussed earlier. And then there was a comment period. We released a draft plan in June of this year, towards the end of June, and then we received a lot of comments, and then they were incorporated in the plan, and then our final plan was published just a little less than a month, not even a month now, October 15th. So we're not done with our plan. It is the initial plan is out there, but we are already going to start our revision in terms of looking at what needs to be revised, because there are benchmark and targets, and that's how we're going to continually evaluate, monitor, and then change the plan. So there will be a second version, the next version, probably by October of 2026 with the updates. So this is in a nutshell how we're going to achieve zero carbon economy in 2045. If you look at the dotted line up over here, so this is the status quo. If we don't do anything, if we don't implement our energy security and waste reduction plan, essentially this is a greenhouse gas reduction plan. This is what we'll end up with. So by 2045, we'll be still emitting about 11 million metric tons of greenhouse gas equivalent, CO2 equivalent in 2045. If you look at what is happening, most of the reduction is coming from a clean fuel, transition to the clean fuel. Basically, because of the aviation is our major transportation greenhouse gas emission, using or switching to sustainable aviation fuel is how it is gonna get that reduction. And then there is also electrification of the transportation, both at the ground transportation, as well as for airports and harbors for their equipments. And then you see this purple ways, that is demand reduction. That demand reduction is to promote alternate mode of transportation, reducing cruise ship activities, and land use changes, land use intervention that will lead to reduction in the vehicle mile of travel, and that reduction would also reflect on the carbon emission. And then you still see this, last wage. This blue is the residual emission, and then to reach the 2045 goal of zero emission, we'll have to sequester the carbon. Sequester the carbon means to capture the carbon and store it so that we are meeting those goals. So even with our plan projection and benchmark, what we see is that by 2045, we are going to still emit some carbon emission because, for example, the ground transportation, there will be still some ICE, internal combustion engine vehicles, which will be burning fossil fuel, and that will be emitting carbon. So that carbon emission will be still there. But if we are sequestering carbon, if we are capturing carbon and then putting that as a storage, then we would still be meeting that 2045 goal. So this is in a nutshell how we are planning to achieve that 2045 goal. But you see over here, even with this very aggressive approach, we are not going to be able to achieve the 2030 goal of reducing to 50% of the 2005 emission. So even with whatever we do and hit all the targets and benchmark that we have established now, still the 2030 goals is not achieved. So that is one of our policy recommendation to our legislators, saying that, okay, we have got a very aggressive program already in place, but still with that, we won't be able to achieve our 2030 goal, but we are going to achieve the 2045 goals. Okay, this is for the ground transportation. We may reach the 2005 goal. Again, this is the same pattern. The blue color is EV, electrification of the transportation, essentially moving our phasing out the internal combustion engine with electric vehicle or hydrogen cell vehicle or any other zero emission vehicle, or in the interim period, it could be a hybrid vehicle which would mostly run on electric, and even when it runs on a petroleum fossil fuel, it would be still emitting a lot less than the actual IC vehicles that emit a lot of greenhouse gas emissions. So that's essentially what we have here, and the green ways is how we are going to achieve with the cleaner fuel technology, biofuels on the ground transportation. This is mostly for heavy vehicles, the trucks and bigger 18-wheelers and heavy equipments. Those cannot be run on electric modes, so they would require some sort of fuel that could be a biofuel with a low carbon emission, and that will be reducing our current use and emission of greenhouse emission from those heavy vehicles to a significant amount if we switch to a biofuels. And of course, there is also some carbon sequestration that is needed to achieve the 2045. We may probably reach our 2030 goal. We probably, if we implement all of our strategies and our actions, we will probably reach our 2030 goal to reduce up to half of the 2005 carbon emission in the ground transportation, but not as total in the transportation system, like I discussed earlier in the last slide. So this is the we talked about the VMT reduction. So all of our projects will undergo a checklist and a process, a standardized process where we'll go through each project element and then see what is the impact on the total greenhouse gas emission, total carbon emission. That way, it allows us to optimize to select projects among the one that provides best carbon reduction outcome. Of course, there are other outcomes that we have to achieve for transportation. There is a safety outcome, there is a asset preservation outcome, there is also economic outcomes. But again, those tools are meant for to be used to meet a particular goal and to optimize across those goals. The reduction strategies, I'll just go through this and I'll fly through those slides. So, if you have any question, I can answer them later. But I'm just, those slides will show those benchmarks and the targets that have been established and some of the strategies that we are going to implement to achieve those benchmarks and the targets. First, with the ground transportation, top 3 strategies are to increase the use of electric vehicles statewide. When we discussed about that, the carbon reduction ways that we are showing the graph, you see that blue line. The expanding transportation choice was the purple line, reducing the VMT, the actual travel, and cutting out those unnecessary travel that doesn't actually provide any economic benefit. Moving from the single occupant vehicle driving to a transit system to multiple passenger within one car. All those strategies are going to help. This is essentially expanding the transportation choices. And then the third one, of course, is for the heavy vehicles and trucks would be the carbon fuel, using low carbon vehicle fuel. Essentially, those 3 strategies are going to lead us to the reduction in the ground transportation. That's what we're talking about, highways and the road. And remember, this is not just for the state highways. It is also for the county roads that we are, that we have within the state. The benchmark we have for the electrification is to achieve 81% of by 2030 have the EV sale up to 81% from about 10% right now. By 35, all state and county lights, so all government vehicles would be 100% zero emission vehicle. It could be either battery electric vehicle or a hydrogen cell vehicle or any other technology that may be available by then. And by 2035, all vehicles that are being sold within the states would be only zero emission vehicles. So these are the high-level benchmark that we have, and to support those benchmark, we have got all those strategies. Expanding the EV charging infrastructure, providing incentive for EV purchase, establishing EV battery recycling and disposal processes, and in fact, the industry in itself, so providing that opportunity and that facility to open up those industry. Again, TNC and rental car fleet. So we encourage our rental car service to provide electric vehicle instead of just the IC, and they will be also subject to same sort of restriction and meeting the benchmark as we have established for the state system. And part of that is also promoting, providing credits and tax incentive to switch to cleaner vehicles. Electrification, the infrastructure, so just providing the zero emission vehicle is not going to be sufficient. We need to provide the electrification, the charging infrastructure. So there are commercial system that is already out there. A lot of vendors are providing that, including Tesla's supercharger system, but it's also the state system. We are promoting, we are actually spending $40 million within the next 5 years to provide and expand our charging infrastructure as a part of our federal program, the electric vehicle infrastructure program. And then increasing the multimodal option, just providing much more option than just single occupant vehicle driving, essentially reducing the VMT by 20% within 2045, and there is a stage reduction target that we have. And again, providing some multimodal, expanding the multimodal network we have, providing more commuter program choices, providing some policy changes to the parking standard. Congestion pricing could be one of the option. And then again, we are also working on actually in a bill right now to provide youth with a transit-free access card, so that if that option is adopted, then it would be a cost to the state, but there will be our youth could be able to access our bus system and the transit system without any cost. And of course, providing other modal, intermodal, and multimodal option and facilities are also part of this strategy. So completing the 5-year priority, network, essentially because we are the state system, and there is also a county system, and then our state system is providing that connectivity between that missing link within the county system. So that's why we think that having a one program that focuses on 5-year to complete the integration of the state and the county multimodal network, the bikeways and the pedestrian ways is going to be critical. That would increase the use of the system, multimodal system, and that's what we are working on. So this is already one of the projects that our this new branch is working. Again, this is also a clean fuel benchmark that we have established, and these are mostly providing incentive to the manufacturer and the users to adapt to the clean fuel standard. This is not just for the ground transportation. This is actually what would be the demand for a clean fuel based on our requirement for all 3 modal programs, for highways, for harbors, and for airports. So if you see there, the biodiesel is essentially for ground transportation, renewable diesel is for ground and marine, that is for harbors, for our ships, and then ethanol is for ground transportation, and then the SAF and eSAF are mostly for the aviation. So that's how we're going to reduce our emission. And this is a really a hefty goal, in a sense that we'll be needing 410 million gallons of SAF in 2030. And by 2045, we probably are going to need about 750 million of SAF and other clean aviation fuel. So that was mostly on the ground transportation, as well as in the clean energy requirement. And then for harbors, for our ships, and for maritime industry, the top 4 strategies that are there to reduce the carbon emission is to reduce cruise ship activity, adopt renewable and biodiesel for inter-island travel, for the shorter travel, and then for the cargo coming to from other states, from mostly from California, use the renewable LNG, which is a less carbon intensive than the current fuel that they use. That is for the immediate kind of transition. And then also in a long term, there are other options that are still being developed and still being worked out, which will provide a low carbon emission. And we kind of discussed it over here. Um, the renewable LNG is now, but there is also renewable diesel that could be on the long term that could be suitable for as a low carbon emission fuel for ships. The benchmarks are there. Is essentially reducing the cruise activity, home call by 50%, and then non-home port cruise call. That could be reduced by 100% by 2040. So this is not going to reduce that much of carbon emission, but this is going to contribute to some amount. Whatever we can do across the sector is going to be useful to reduce the total carbon emission. The other, benchmark, again, this is a different, relatively much more cleaner energy going into the future, and the adaptation rate, and that's how they have model to reach that reduction and meet the 2045 goal for maritime, essentially for the shipping industry. For aviation, again, is mostly substituting this sustainable aviation fuel. And then the second part, and which is actually already we're working a lot of work on this, a lot of projects going on the electrification of airfield and ground and terminal access. For example, a jet arriving in Honolulu Airport, if it is provided with a clean fuel on the ground, plugged to the ground system, then they don't have to operate their jet engine for the 3 hours that they may still be on the tarmac, loading the cleaning the jet, cleaning the plane first, and then refueling, and then getting onboarding the passenger. So for those 3 hours, if that jet engine is not operating and not producing emission, that will be a lot of emission reduction. So that kind of ground and terminal access to the clean energy is also being worked out, so that the total emission is going to be reduced. It is not that much amount, but like I said, any amount reduction is going to contribute to the 2045 goal. And of course, this is a more on airport operation. Ramp efficiency is on how we have more throughput of landing and takeoff within our airport system. So the SAF upload is really ambitious benchmark that we have. 25% is compared to the national challenge of 10%. So we really have a high benchmark already established for us to achieve the 2045 goal. For the national standard, again, this national challenge is not a benchmark itself. It is just a goal that they have set up as a way to reach the 2045 net negative emission. There is actually in 2050, SAF uploaded to this aircraft would be 100%. Our goal is by 100% by 2045. So this is really ambitious in terms of our strategy. Again, providing tax credit and incentive for SAF production, and then transmit production, and then use. That's essentially what we need to work on, and then setting up a coalition of the willings to work on this benchmark, because a lot of our airport operation, and actually all of our airport operation is commercial operation. Is not government is not sponsoring any airlines. It is all commercial. So all our commercial operators need to actually own the process and then work on those meeting those those benchmarks. Aviation on electrification is more on the ground transportation side of the aviation. passenger coming out of the jet are going to use the rental car, and then if we electrify those cars, then there will be a carbon reduction. So by 2035, all 50% of rental car, we want them to be electric, and by 2045, all should be electric. And then we're also providing some incentive and coordination and collaboration to achieve those benchmarks. Fuel demand reduction is more on optimizing the both ramp as well as the airport landing and takeoff. So it's more on the aviation side, is more technical on their system and processes that they improve, and we expect there will be fuel demand reduction by those optimization. As an administration, what we are looking is mostly on the on trying to provide additional legislative packages. So if there are additional laws and rules that needs to be in place, especially for clean energy rebates, cleaner energy incentives, and then also for other part of this program, then we provide that support. So we are working on those different administrative as well as rule-making processes to make sure that we support our model programs to achieve the carbon emission. That also includes operational, making our construction, our operation greener in terms of less carbon intensive. But that is a very tiny part of the total emission. It will be only 3 or 4% of the total carbon emission. Most of the carbon emissions reduction are going to be achieved by the actual reduction in the model programs that I discussed earlier. Again, this is what we are still working on, the clean fuel standards, and then providing the incentive. For that, we are going to do a feasibility study on seeing what possible ways and paths that we have to have those clean fuel locally manufactured, and then that capacity to manufacture and then provide that to our transportation system across all mode, and then some of those could be some of the rules and acts and laws that some other states, especially California and Washington, have already on their books. So probably we may need to actually look at those and then see what can be implemented in Hawaii. So that's mostly on the clean fuel standards. And remember, even with doing all those individual mode specific reduction, we still have residual carbon, and those residual carbon is going to be balanced by carbon sequestration, meaning that carbon would be captured and stored. And for that, we have got several programs that we are already working, promoting native forest, which provide more carbon storage than invasive and plants that are not within our islands, restoring coastal wetland that will capture more carbon, improving biosecurity, supporting regenerative farming, and not just the regenerative farming, but also regenerative tourism that provides much more crowd-sourced contribution to the carbon reduction. And essentially, we are already doing replanting trees and doing those activities, the project specific activities already. It has been ongoing activity, but we are going to accelerate that. And there is also co-benefit of doing this carbon sequestration projects. It reduces some of the fire risk. You may have heard about our Lahaina wildfire, in 2023, which was in terms of the fatality, the largest one in 100 years, in last 100 years in the United States. 100 people died in that fire. So those kind of risks are going to be reduced if we provide those work. In conclusion, essentially what we have is emission reduction strategies. They are not just working for emission reduction, but they are also providing us with energy security. Remember, we are the most remote urban settlement anywhere on Earth. So any war, anything, any disruption, any natural hazards, or or hurricane, or something happening on the port that is supplying to us, that impacts us. So if we can have more locally produced SAF, biodiesel, much less reliant on imported fossil fuel, that is going to be energy security for us. That is a strategic importance for us, for our economy. And then also tying up those two basic pillars are the affordability. Right now, giving you an example, the sustainable aviation fuel is actually is cost from two times to 10 times. 2 times would be SAF, which is only 50% carbon reduced from the current existing jet fuel. 10 times would be probably 100% carbon-free SAF. So right now, I think the average cost of jet fuel in Hawaii is $4. And let's even talk about the conservative estimate of $10 per gallon. A gallon is a 3.75 liter. So just going back to this original, sorry for that slide. The fuel consumption, the total SAF that we need in 2030 is 410 million gallon. So that means the delta in terms of the cost, even if we think the traditional jet fuel is $4, the SAF is $10, that will be $8. So it is about 3.2 410 times 8 is about $3.2 billion additional cost. So that is about 600 million per year. So that's a lot of cost. So it is not that simple. So how are we going to meet it? Whether that is going to be affordable in terms of the economic cost. So we are also looking into those details. So the second part of our study, we completed our study. Now we're looking at the economic impact and the best way to achieve those, benchmark and the, probably, tweak the projects and the strategies that we may have. And then it could be like, pointing out to our legislators, to our policymakers, and saying that, okay, this goal may not be, this particular goal like, 2030 may, we may need to do more sequestration, or we may need more resources, or whether, our state is going to be able to afford in terms of all those projects that we are going to recommend to meet those, goals. So that's basically what we are going to work in our update next year. And these are basically what we call the three pillars of our plan, looking at the emission reduction, achieving the energy security, and making sure that it's affordable for our state and for our community. That's it for my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any of your questions. That's a really good question. Let me answer that. So, our first part of this, exercise, having this draft plan, finalizing this plan that we started last year was to look at what takes us to meet the state goals, achieving the 2030 half of 2005 carbon emission, and then 2045 zero emission. That was essentially what drove this exercise, for finding out the strategies and the benchmark to reach that goal in all three model programs that we have within the DOT. So this is where, the last slide that I had presented earlier, about, the three pillars: the emission reduction, the energy security, and the affordability. The second part of our study, the update that we are going to have, next year, and then we are going to continue working on this for the, next year. We'll have actually this update every year for the plan. That would look at the cost and the impact. Um, uh, we are already working on the clean fuel standard, and then the incentive that we provide. And you rightly said that, this is not going to be provided. The initial discussion that we are having right now is to have a $20 million rebate. And then the calculation, the um, back of the envelope calculation that I was talking about earlier, in terms of the 410 million SAF requirement that we have in 2030, and the cost um, uh, you know, of 10, the delta of cost being $8, that is already 3.2 billion, and 20 billion is not going to be sufficient. So what are the other policy options that we may have? So that's going to be a discussion that we'll have with our policymakers, as well as our vendors, the manufacturers. And remember, the cost right now is the cost delta right now is for the current cost. With the technology improvement, that cost is going to come down, and sometimes it is going to be very rapid changes that we may have in technology, and the cost, you know, could be reduction could be significant, and that would be a help. Again, this is going to be ongoing issues for us. We'll have to keep on monitoring, and then probably change our benchmark to meet the requirement. You're welcome. If I understand the question clearly, and let me rephrase it, and you may correct me if it's not the question that you are asking. You are asking about the eligibility of being in the youth council and the outreach that we have with the youth council. If that is the case, the youth council was established as a part of our agreement that we had on that lawsuit that that was 13 youth in 2022 uh, uh, essentially went to the court and said that the department was not doing enough. So part of the settlement was that we would create a youth council, and we in our other planning processes and also in our other projects, we go to our public, we go to our community, and then present our plans, present our project, and then get their input. So it is not like we are not going out to the public. It is, we are always going out to the public, but this youth council is essentially, having a forum for our youth, who may not be participating on those, larger outreach that we have for our project and community meeting. And then also having a more systematic approach, and then also providing a funding for them to, they are from different islands. So we provide funds for them to come and then meet as a council, deliberate on their program, reviewing our project, not just the greenhouse gas emission program, but other projects as well. So it's more of providing the structure and the resources for the communities, for the youth. So that's how we have structure, and it's because of the settlement requirement. You're welcome.
Okay, thank you for the opportunities, Mrs. Moderator and Mrs. Pradip. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Thank you. I'm so sorry I cannot activate my camera because of my bad signal, but I do hope you can hear me. in the previous presentation, you said that there are top 3 strategies in ground transportation for reduction emission. And number 1, increase the use of electric vehicles statewide. And the second, expand transportation choices and use low carbon fuels for heavy duty trucks. Now, in Indonesia, maybe you know that we have problem with our dimension overload. The truck that have over dimension, and if we want to adapting EV to shifting the over dimension overload for characteristic country like Indonesian, could it will be in your insightful, Mr. Pradip, because the over dimension overload truck contributing biggest emission for our environment. Thank you.
That is a good question. In a sense, I think, it's more of a regulatory approach that you may want to have. I think, you are probably attributing to having a high, overloaded, trucks contributing to the higher emission. So that is more on a regulation, how you gonna, limit that to the specified loading characteristics of the the truck and the trailers. That is a different approach than what we are talking now. But even in that case, let's say that even the vehicle is overloaded. If that vehicle is not using the petroleum fuel, not using the fossil fuel, if it is using clean energy, clean fuel, then the emission is not going to be there. Similar to like the cars, which especially in the U.S. Anywhere in the US, you look at the ground transportation emission, the majority of emission is through the single occupant vehicle. So if you reduce that vehicle, if you have that propulsion from internal combustion engine to electric or zero emission vehicle propulsion system, then you reduce that emission. And even if you can't achieve the reduction in VMT, you are still not gonna increase you still are going to be able to achieve your benchmark or target that you may have on the carbon reduction. Of course, you are not going to meet other urban development related co-benefits like having a compact city, having much more economic activity, having a livable city, and all those things may not be there, but still you are going to achieve the greenhouse gas emission target if you moved from traditional carbon emitting internal combustion engine vehicles to clean zero emission vehicle. It could be battery electric vehicle, it could be hydrogen cell vehicle, or it could be any other alternative. And in the medium term, it could be plug-in hybrid vehicles, which are going to be having a lot less carbon emission than compared to the traditional petroleum vehicles. So as a concept, if you move from the traditional fossil fuel to a clean or zero emission fuel, you don't have a problem, even if there is an overload in the trucking industry. That's what I think your concern was. That could be mandated, that could be regulated through rules and regulation and enforcement, but just in terms of meeting the carbon reduction goal, you can still meet that goal with the strategies that we have. Similar to of course, Indonesia probably would have a different type of strategies. Not everything that we have over here may not be applicable to you, but all those strategies can be implemented in some combination to achieve the carbon emission goal of whatever you may have. Hopefully, I answered your question.
I clearly for me, so I got the point. So the main is how to change the fuel for switch to the cleaner one. Is it right?
Yes, exactly. Cleaner fuel for heavy vehicles, and for passenger vehicles, and for cars probably move to a zero emission vehicle like battery electric vehicle, or carbon cell uh, you know hydrogen cell vehicles.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Pradeep. And
You
Mr.
are welcome.
Mahendra.
Sorry about that. Okay. Actually, the state government is committed for carbon reduction. The state law says that by 2045, there should be more carbon sequestration than emission. So by 2045, the law requires that within the state of Hawaii, there should be zero carbon emission in total, in aggregate, right? So the state is already committed. And to achieve that target, the plan is actually to meet that requirement, right? So although it was created as a part of the settlement process, and then we work on the plan, but the focus of the plan itself, the objective and the goal of the plan is to achieve that that state's goal of 2045 being carbon neutral. And the state goal is carbon neutral for all the sectors, and our this plan is focusing on transportation sector. And there is a commitment for that. And as an operational agency, as a part of the department within the state of Hawaii, we are committed to that process. And that's why we are working on this benchmark, and we are also working on those strategies. And then those benchmark and the strategies are followed with the actions. And if you remember, there was a project implementation tool, the PE tool, where we are scoring each of our projects in terms of the carbon emission that project is going to contribute. So that's the process we have already established. Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.